Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. I'm Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a video production company based out of West Seattle, Washington. We primarily focus on wedding videography and corporate videography. And today I am joined by two guests who are very dear, special friends of mine. I know I say that a lot. I'm sure at some point I'll finally interview somebody I don't like, but today is not that case, as I am joined by Heather and Ryan of Events by Heather and Ryan. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Heather.
Hi, and I'm Ryan.
And we're Events by Heather and Ryan.
I was thinking about that. It's a good thing that you guys aren't like Jim and Noreen or something.
Right.
That would have been...
That would make it a little awkward. I think, right? Yeah.
And Heather and Ryan are very good friends of mine. They go back way back into like my origin story of being a wedding videographer. Probably my second summer, I think we did 3 weddings together back to back to back, which was an interesting experience. And so why don't you guys kind of tell me who you are and what you guys are all about?
All right. Well, we're Heather and Ryan. We are a married couple who love shooting weddings. We have been together since 2003 and got married in 2005 and started our business in 2007. So it's been a long road for us. Something when we first met, you know, photography was a hobby for both of us. We both enjoyed it and learned kind of throughout the years and dating and getting married. And when DSLRs first came out and became big, we bought our first big camera and really just had fun learning all about photography and teaching each other. And it was one of those things that it was a hobby, and we just thought it would be something for fun and would go to friends' weddings and take family portraits for friends. And everybody kept telling us, oh, you should do this, you should do this. And we kind of would just chuckle and think, oh, you're our friends and family. You have to tell us that, right? We just took photos for you. And, you know, so it took us a little bit. But I think for me, what was kind of the turning point of like, oh, maybe we should do this was we went to it was a friend of my dad's wedding. And we took a bunch of photos and tried not to be those annoying wedding guests that are, you know, in the way, but just kind of sat back and captured what we thought was fun and ended up sending the bride a DVD of the photos that we took. And I got a call from her 2 weeks later, and she called and said, you know, Heather, I just want you to know you guys really need to do this. She said, I paid my wedding photographer $3,000 to photograph our wedding day, and the wedding photos that'll be hung on our wall and put in an album are the ones that you guys took. And I finally thought, she didn't have to call and tell me that. And so I thought maybe we do have something. And so...
Well, I think what's interesting, too, is when we first started out in 2007, we planned on doing this for a hobby, and I think we wanted to, you know, we said, well, we'll do 5 weddings a year. That'll be great. That'll be some vacation money. And I think that first year, instead of doing 5, we booked 24, and then we decided, okay, well, maybe we have something here. And then the next year, that 24 turned into 35, and then the year after that, I think we were in the 50s. And every year since then, we've been doing, you know, over 50 weddings a year. So, you know, Seattle's been really good to us. I think we have something here.
And so before you guys decided to do, you know, wedding photography, what were you guys doing, I guess, professionally before that?
I was a retail manager.
And I was actually a customer service manager locally here in Seattle.
Do you guys think that experience with working with customer service and the public and kind of helps you guys today now in terms of like customer relations and working with clients and stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. And to piggyback on that, I think one thing I found when we formed our company, we wanted to be that one company where customer service was part of the experience. I know there's a lot of companies out there that have either that creative aspect, but not the customer service, or they have the customer service but not the creative. And I wanted to have a company. I think we had a good thing going with the photography, but I wanted to focus on customer service as well. I didn't want customers to say, well, they were great pictures, but their customer service was horrible. So that's one thing when we designed our wedding photography, when we designed our packages and basically the experience with the customer, I wanted to make sure that the customer wasn't saying, wow, we got great pictures, but I wish we would have gotten this, or I wish our package would have included this. And that's how we molded our company. We wanted to make sure that the customers got exactly what they were looking for. There was no lacking. There was nothing missing there.
So when you guys were working, getting the photography business off the ground, when you did those 24, were you guys still working full time at that point, or how did that work?
We were. We actually worked full time for the first few years of our business. And that was one of those things. It takes a leap of faith to become self-employed. We also have children. So that's a big thing too, is that we wanted to make sure that, we were very stable in what we were doing because, we still had a family to provide for and a mortgage to pay. And so for us, it kind of took some steps in a few years to make sure that we had everything under our belts. The other big thing too that we wanted to make sure of is we didn't go into debt opening our company either. So every year we'd buy new equipment and upgrade things and, new computers and hard drives and kind of go from there. So I think that's what helped make us successful too, is that we didn't have to go into debt purchasing all of our equipment and making sure that we had everything. So we both worked full time for the first 4 years.
Let's say 4 or 5 years. You started, when we started in 2007, I think 2011 was when I went with the company full time, and then yourself in 2013. So it took a while, and but the rewards have been worth it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we just did it in steps. So Ryan quit his full-time job first and did the business full-time, and then I was still working full-time and working with the business, and a lot of it for health insurance reasons too, and being able to make sure we could provide that. So, and then in early 2013, I quit my full-time job, and then we both have been full-time in the company ever since. So I don't regret that for a minute.
And now, looking back, it's probably, since you guys have been doing it for 4 or 5 years at that point when you quit. But was that scary? Taking that leap? Into entrepreneurship? When you guys had a normal 9 to 5, or what was that thought process?
Not really, because we had already demonstrated a track record of success. We had a loyal customer following. We had the business figured out enough where it was a natural progression to go self-employed. I don't think we ever had that moment where we said, "Wow, are we doing the right thing?" I think it was just very natural, very much the next step.
Yeah, I think we had gotten to the point where we knew it was the right thing. And so it was a really easy transition to go from, working full time to taking over the business full time. And it's allowed us to do more things too. So, whereas I think we kind of opened up our business from doing primarily weddings, which I would say that's still a majority of what we do, but then it allowed us to do a lot more, families and, headshots, and Ryan does some commercial. And so it kind of allowed us to open up other avenues too, which was really nice, because before it was, a lot of the weekends of shooting and editing during the week. And now we kind of have been able to open up our schedule to allow us to do more.
And obviously spend more time with your family too. You guys have how many kids?
We have four kids. Lots of kids.
We just had to look at each other to do that, just so you know. Yeah, we have 4 kids. So we have a 17-year-old from Ryan's first marriage, and then we have 3 boys together that our oldest will be 10 next month, and then our middle son is 7, and our youngest is 3. So we have quite the household to take care of too. So yeah, it makes it fun because, the nice part about being self-employed is we can somewhat set our schedules. Obviously our clients, have a lot to say in that too, but, we work a lot of nights and weekends, but the trade-off is we can get our kids up in the morning and get them to school. I can go volunteer at the school if I want to, we're there at night. So it makes it fun.
But the flexibility there too is if a customer needs something, let's say at 11 o'clock during the weekday, or they need to meet at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, we're able to accommodate that much better than somebody who's working, a 9 to 5 job and doing this, part-time.
Talking about being married now. Talking about being married now and working with I hit the table too. Talk about being married now and working with couples, new couples, engaged couples. Having gone through that process, does that help you guys? I always say that I became a much better wedding vendor after being married and I didn't even know, you don't even know until, talk about that and kind of being able to help couples go through that process.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. I think it helps to know, being married and having, when we planned our wedding, when we got married, we planned it ourselves. We paid for it mostly ourselves. And so we kind of knew what we wanted and what we didn't want. And I think that helps us connect to a lot of our clients too, being married and having gone through that.
Well, I think our clients are a reflection of what our wedding planning was like. I mean, I'd say a majority of our clients are, planning it themselves. They're paying for it themselves. Maybe their parents or they have relatives that are helping them out just maybe a little bit. But that going through that process with us back in 2005, we know what that's like. So, our pricing's affordable. We realize people don't like getting nickel and dime to death. And that's one thing that I'm very much against is, having somebody buy a product and then later on telling them, well, if you want this, then you got to buy this. And, we took the pictures, but now if you want to buy the pictures, if you want the pictures, then you have to pay us more money. That's never been our business model, and that's something that we will never do.
And you think that comes from planning your own wedding and going through that?
Definitely, yes.
And so in terms of the Heather and Ryan client, who is that? Somebody, like you said, that's planning the wedding, but what kind of clients are the ones that you find are attracted to you? What fun, easygoing? I mean, what kinds of clients do you guys really look for?
I think we get the fun, easygoing. I don't want to say laid back, but not. I mean, it's hard because you look at your clients and you want them to be, your clients and like you and people that you can relate to. So
our company is an extension of us, and when I say that, it's we have a lot of clients that we become friends with after the fact. I mean, we've kept up with a lot of our clients, and granted, there's some clients that they'll buy our service and then once we deliver the product, we don't hear from them again, and that's, I think, normal in any course of business. But we do have a loyal following of customers that will follow up with. A year later, we'll be with them for anniversary pictures, for family pictures. But it's not only that; it's we'll do we'll hang out with some of our customers too. I mean, I can think of a handful of customers that we talk to on a daily basis or a weekly basis, non-photography related. I mean, it's that kind of relationship that we want to foster with our customers. We don't want them to hire us thinking we're hiring a company. We want them to think, well, we actually like Heather and Ryan. They're actually cool people. And now they happen to do wedding photography as well, and they happen to do it really well. But we want them to think of us as more or less friends, not we're that one vendor. So
right, we're real people, so we want to connect with our clients and connect with our families too, and be able to kind of take it all in. And I think that's one thing too that I think sets us apart sometimes is just listening to our clients and getting to know them. A lot of our clients, we follow on Facebook and on Instagram and on their personal social media pages, and I think that it's nice to see, and it's fun to see just those little tidbits into their life and to pay attention to those. I think it helps you connect with them. So, we always say too, like, we never want to walk into your wedding day and like, oh, those are our photographers. We want to walk in and, oh, Heather and Ryan are here. And so I'm being able to connect with everybody. We take a lot of pride in that. And I think that's kind of why we've been in business for so long and been able to build our business is, like Ryan said too, we've connected with these clients on their wedding days, but then it's fostered into a different relationship. So we've built a whole other business with portraits off of, wedding clients and referrals from our wedding clients. So
yeah, I think that's always something that I miss in videography is, the need for a professional videographer is really like your wedding day. And then if, your bridesmaid or somebody's looking for a videographer, but being able to grow with the couples like that, I think is really cool. And that's something that I always envy with photographers is being able to do, mini sessions every year where you get to see them, talk about that and kind of getting to see them grow every year and You guys.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts, actually. And it's fun to watch the families grow and to, I can't tell you how many times I've received the email or the the text saying, "Oh my gosh, Heather, I just found out I'm pregnant, but nobody else knows, but I had to tell you." I'm that person that they reach out to, and to me that is the most amazing thing, and that we've become, that person in their lives, that they're so excited when they find out that they're pregnant that they're calling or telling me first before they tell anybody else because they wanted me to know.
Well, also the service, actually backing up a little bit, the service up to the actual wedding day. Heather's really good at developing and fostering a relationship with that client where I can tell you a few times where the wedding day is stressful for the bride. Granted, it's the most important day of their lives. And there's a lot of stress in the room. And the bride has actually asked her family and her friends to leave, but Heather can stay. I've seen that more times than I can count on my hands. And it just goes to kind of show you what kind of person Heather is. I'm more the technical person, but I don't foster relationships like she does. But I think we're a good combination. I mean, I'm very technical. I know the equipment well, the dynamics behind a picture, the technical side of a picture. I'm good at getting those pictures, but Heather's good at getting that personality out of the person. So. And you need both components to get a good picture. I mean, if you have somebody that knows how to work a camera and can talk to you for hours and hours about how the camera works, but if they can't get that personality to show through, the pictures are only going to be as good as the lighting was. You really have to have a good rapport with your customers in order to get good pictures.
I know there's wide variety of photography companies. There's solo photographers and there's dual photographers. I do think that the dynamic between the husband and wife team is really fun to have on the wedding day. Both being, I think, behind the camera with you guys, kind of alongside. I have fun, but I also think that it's got to be fun for the client as well. Do you want to talk about that? Kind of just playing off each other during the wedding day. I do think it kind of eases some of the tension and kind of helps, you guys are able to divide and conquer, or how do you look at that?
Oh, absolutely. I think our clients enjoy our banter back and forth because we're very sarcastic to each other, and, we like to have fun, but I think it's fun when they kind of see us, going back and forth with things. And I think that just kind of puts everybody at ease. They like to see that relationship. And what Ryan said too, he's the technical and I'm let's just try this, and our clients know that and they see it and they're like, okay, yeah, let's try it, and
yeah, they forget about their worries and their problems that day. And they're like, wow, Heather and Ryan really have some issues they got to work out.
It's fun. And I think it keeps things real though. I think it keeps them less stressed that way. But they also see the connection. I think it does allow us to divide and conquer on a wedding day too. I think it allows us to, with the both of us and Ryan can go hang out with the guys beforehand. I'm with the girls. We kind of trade off back and forth.
I think if they see that we're not stressed, if we're joking around and kidding around, usually sarcasm comes about when you're comfortable with everything else. If somebody's really worried about stuff, sarcasm doesn't really, or having fun doesn't really come out. Everyone's really serious. So if your vendors are stressed, if your vendors are stressed, then you're going to be stressed because you're thinking, well, what do they see that I don't? But if your vendors are relaxed and they're joking back and forth with each other, then that's actually our goal, is for the customers to feel at ease with their day, because there's a method behind our madness. If the customers are relaxed, they're going to be relaxed in the pictures. The pictures are going to be better. If we appear relaxed, if we appear in control of everything, then the customer sees that, then they become relaxed, and then their pictures are better, and then they like our pictures, and then hopefully they tell their friends, and that's kind of the goal behind all that, and it actually flows naturally. It's not really a script that we do, but it's natural. It's kind of how we operate, because granted, if the customers are worried about something and they don't like their pictures, it ruins their day. And that's the one day that they have to look forward to. So we want them to know that, hey, your day's happening, whether you like it or not, it's going to be fine. And there's a lot of times where I've, talked to brides and grooms and say, hey, listen, everything is fine. You're looking at it from one perspective, and we've seen a number, we've probably done over 500 weddings, and we know what works, we know what doesn't work, and we can usually walk into a room and know if it's going to work out or not within the first 5 minutes. And, and we set the stage to make sure that day is successful. So.
Well, I figure if they see that we can make marriage work, then they'll be just fine too.
There you go.
Right?
Well, this is a low bar.
If I can be married to this guy for how long, you can do this too. Trust me. So, and that's what I was. We're joking back and forth too. I always tell people I don't always like him. I just have to love him. So you don't always have to like your spouse. You just have to love him. And we're together all the time. So your relationship won't be like this. So people laugh at that, and it's just fun to keep it lighthearted, right? Marriage can be a scary thing, so let's have fun with it.
Obviously, when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of your life is work and your work is life. But I think if you're we're your husband and wife team that you work together, you live together, you obviously have your family. Does that provide unique challenges, or what is that like?
I think it definitely provides unique challenges. I think most couples are not together 24 hours a day, whereas we are. I think that we learned years ago that we have to take time from ourselves outside of our kids and outside of our business. We got into the habit of date nights where, stopping someplace on the way home from a wedding or the way home from a session or a meeting. And we've kind of found that we need to really separate our time as opposed to our company time and our kids' time. And so you have to be really conscious of that, because otherwise you just kind of get into this routine of things and you don't really take time for yourselves anymore. Yeah, so I think it does provide unique challenges working together, living together, raising kids together, running a business together. It's hard when you have disagreements on things, because then it kind of spills in from either your personal life or from your, from the business. So you really just have to be able to step back and reevaluate things sometimes. We can't have a bad morning at home and then go shoot a wedding and let it affect that. So you kind of have to learn how to balance those things. I think we do a good job with it. I think that, we have different strengths and weaknesses. And so I think we need to remember those sometimes and kind of step back and reflect on that and let decisions being made and things like that, really kind of, just happen. So.
Yeah. You have to, it's being in the business that we were in before. We've both had professional jobs before. You learn to work with your peers. You learn to communicate. And I think a lot of that comes into play. Communicating, this, I feel this way because of this, and I understand how you feel, and coming to a consensus. But, we've been doing this for many years, so it's easy to say that we're successful in mitigating any conflict that comes up, so.
And interesting, I remember, I think it was during that first string of weddings we had worked on, and I think I had a wedding with Ryan, and you were, I think, working another wedding or had split, and then had even just come just to be like a third photographer, just to kind of hang out with Ryan after, when you guys had wrapped or whatever. And I always thought that was really cool. Like you talked about like making your own date nights or stopping somewhere after a wedding, or
and I think we did stop somewhere after that wedding to get something to eat. Yeah.
But or like we had the wedding show up at the Northwest Bridal Showcase, and like you guys had gone out for dinner and a date night, because someone was watching the kids or whatever. So I think that's unique. But I always thought that was kind of a fun story. I thought, man, they must really like it, A, doing weddings, and B, just kind of being together if you're going to get done with, your work and then go and hang out. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, it is fun, and it does make it different. And I think even the times, there are times in the summer where we'll shoot 2 weddings in a day, and we have other photographers that work with us that we've worked with for years, but it's almost a odd feeling being apart sometimes, because we do this together all the time. So those times of the year,
I don't think you like it. I think you tell me we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to double book anymore. But if Seattle wasn't so So seasonal as far as weddings go. If it was, a year-round wedding season, I think it would be one thing. But unfortunately, we do have to, on some of the busier days, we do, Heather will go to one wedding, I'll go to another, and we'll have people that work with us. But the people that work with us are seasoned in the industry. I mean, they're not the high school or college students that are looking to get their foot in the game. They're people that have their own companies, but for one reason or another, they didn't book that day, or they decided not to book their own wedding that day, and we'll just have them, work with us.
Well, and a lot of the people you guys have known for years.
Oh, yeah.
Like Ivy and whoever that, you guys have known.
We've had a few other, that have worked with us through the years, and they don't just shoot one or two weddings with us. They're with us all the time. And so it makes it nice because then we still have that ebb and flow. But I think two of them are apart. I think it's a slight control thing for me because I'm always wondering, okay, did Ryan get this shot? Things that I normally get, or things, because there are things when we work together that we know, like I don't have to ask if he's getting like the table shots and some of those detail shots because that's normal for him. And so I'm always like, if we're not together, I always think in the back of my head, okay, did he get that? Did he get this shot? So it's, but, our shooters know, kind of what they're familiar with the product that we deliver to the customer, and they know what components go into that product. So they know it's not just the bride and the groom. I mean, a lot of our brides and the grooms, it's their money that they're putting on this wedding. It's, they painstakingly over the months, they will, put together the place settings. They'll pick the colors, and the day is a reflection of months and months of planning, sometimes, years of planning. And we know it's important that on that wedding day, they're not going to necessarily be able to appreciate that and see it. So we want to make sure we get those pictures so they can look back and say, wow, this is actually what it looked like. And,
Talk to me about your first wedding together with, Heather and Ryan.
Yeah.
I think it was July 16th, 2007. We actually photographed a wedding with, I actually skydive, and it was one of our skydive friends. I think she actually worked at the drop zone, and it was our first wedding, July 16th. And yeah, I think we learned a lot from that wedding. I think one of the things we learned is you need 2 cameras and you need batteries.
Lots of batteries. Lots and lots of batteries.
That was the luckily I learned it on the first wedding that the flashes will go through batteries really quick, and putting a half charged set of batteries in one flash will not last the full day. So. No.
Were you guys nervous? I mean,
we were, because it was our first wedding for hire, and the first wedding. I mean, there was a lot of learning that we did at that wedding. But I think every wedding we learned something new, and that one thing that we know to this day is every wedding is unique. It's not the same, so you can't go into a wedding and say, "Wow, I have 10 or 12 or 11 or however many years of experience." And rely on that experience to be successful. The way I look at it is we're writing a book, and that book is not written when we show up for that wedding day. It's a whole bunch of blank pages. That wedding's a story, and somebody needs to tell it, and we're actually capturing the story behind that, which goes into our pictures. The pictures aren't just of a bride and groom. There's emotion behind those pictures, so we want to get the story behind those pictures. And I think going back to that first wedding, I think that's one thing I've learned is we need to be able to capture that story. We need to be on our game. We need to not rely on our experience, but we need to look at the situation. We need to look at the wedding that's in front of us on the present day.
And I think through our first, especially our first wedding season, it was, after each wedding, kind of reevaluating, okay, what worked and what didn't work and what do we need to do differently. And, and I think that's too, even with like our equipment and rechargeable batteries and cards and everything, kind of learning systems and what works and what we need to do and what can we do better. And I think we really, we took those, especially those first few years, and really tried to figure out the best way for us and what we wanted to achieve. So I think, every wedding, especially that first year, we learned a lot, and we took that with us. I think that's why, we kind of have the systems that we have in place, and there is a method behind our madness with certain things, is really just taking that and learning from it.
So when you guys talk about, doing a lot of weddings, 10 years, 500 weddings, how do you get excited every day? Or how do you approach that to be fun and unique and to kind of keep bringing that energy?
Well, I think we talk to those brides and grooms in the months leading up to their weddings. So every wedding is unique. So it's hard, it's almost like, we look at each of our clients as almost an extension of us as a friend, because it's somebody that when I see a client, I see somebody that has looked at our work, that loves our work, that says, wow, I want you to do the same thing that you've done in the past for me. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. So we don't look at it as a job. We look at it as somebody that, likes us, that's somebody that, once, is trusting us with the most important day of their lives. When you have somebody that, gives you that much of the gratitude that they give you by simply hiring you, you don't want to fail. So you're on your game. You don't want to be, rest on your laurels where you say, wow, I've done this before and I don't need to prepare. So, with that, attitude, I think it's real easy to say, every wedding, we have a wedding this weekend. I mean, we're preparing for that wedding. We have our systems in place, but we have the communication and the desire to really communicate with that bride and that groom to make sure that they're very successful. And it's almost an internal feeling that you feel. It's an obligation that you feel inside of you. It's not. It doesn't get old, and I think once we start saying this gets old, I think that's when maybe we're done with the business. But at this point, I mean, we're still every much as excited for the next wedding as we were that first wedding, because every wedding is unique, and it gives us an opportunity to really work with some great people.
Yeah, I think it is still that excitement for weddings, and we love what we do. And I think that's why we can do it and why we've done it for so long, and being able to connect. And so, I mean, even thinking about this weekend and what we have to do, and, we're at a different church on Saturday that we've never been at. So, okay, what's that going to be like? And, and being able to capture different things, and then we're at Willow's Lodge. So, whereas we've shot there, 50 times before, okay, what's going to be different about this weekend, and kind of going into it, so we kind of, it's not a mundane job, but by any means, every day is something different. And I think that's what keeps it exciting for me, is that every day is something different. Every client is different. Every job is different. And so that's what keeps it fun for us. And like Ryan said, it's still fun for us. And so we know that we're still doing the right thing.
And I'd like this answer from each of you, but favorite part of the wedding, what do you, in terms of the wedding day, whether it's, getting ready or the ceremony or first dance or whatever, what is it and why is that, one of your favorite parts?
So I would say my favorite parts are probably the getting ready and the first look, because I love the excitement that goes on during that part. And then, during a first look, the emotions and the excitement and the anticipation. And, I feel like once we shoot those things, then the rest of the day just kind of goes from there. And I think you almost get on an adrenaline rush after things like that. So, I think it's that first part of the day, you're really connecting with your clients and meeting their bridal party and meeting more of their family and getting into that groove. And then for me, after that, it's all fun from there. Because now I know who I'm working with today, and I can, get in my groove. And seeing that first look when they see each other for the first time, usually there's some tears. I've even teared up a time or two. And so, it's
Ryan
just
never has.
No,
No,
he
stone
keeps
cold.
But I do. I still cry at weddings.
I have a
And that's
reputation of
Ryan
always-
laughs at me that, how after doing over 500 weddings, do I still cry at weddings? I still cry at weddings. And I think it's because it's that emotional connection to our clients. So it's the first part of the day is fun for me. I love all parts, but I would say that's where I kind of get into my groove of the day and really get going.
Well, we'll talk to the bride separately. We'll talk to the groom separately. So when you see that first moment, the individual story behind each. You know what's going through that groom's mind. You know what's going through that bride's mind because you've talked to them. But I would like to say, probably my most favorite part. My favorite part is actually the bride and groom together. When we take them aside and we take them away from the crowd, and we get pictures of just the two of them because it's a collaboration. It's more taking the pictures, but talking to them, letting them unwind a little bit because we typically will do that, after the ceremony, after dinner, but before all the main event starts. But I love getting them together and getting some of those, couple shots where we can be a little creative.
And letting them enjoy each other. I think that's too. We always tell our clients too, like your wedding day is about you. And I think a lot of times in the excitement of everything and having all your friends and family and being pulled in a million directions, that's something that we really strive is to let our clients have that few minutes of just the two of them. And so, we have fun with that. It's the two of them and us and hopefully, our videographer with us. And, but it's just nice to give them that time and let them breathe and take it all in.
Because it is a lot. I mean, and that's what people, if you're planning the wedding or have just got married, it is, especially nowadays with, I think, like family pressures and, other people taking photos, and just planning and money and everything. And your wedding day it can be really stressful. And I do think it's nice to have, an easygoing vendor team. And especially, with your photographer is kind of the key to that. Yeah. I always have like a go-to joke, after the first look, because like you say, it is a lot of pressure to that moment.
Yeah.
And and our one on Sunday, and they turned around and looked, and then I said, "All right, well, we're done now. Like that's it. We're gonna go home," because it is like so much even for that. And then
the build up.
Yeah, actually, now we still have 8 more hours, but at least it's a good kind of moment of levity there. In terms of kind of working with you guys, what is kind of the Heather and Ryan process look like in terms of like Ryan said, you guys have a lot of systems in place, and talking about that and kind of the organization and kind of, really kind of holding people's hands through that process.
Yeah, I think that's something too that, our years of experience gives us is that we've really tried to fine tune our process. So we want it to be easy. We always tell our clients, we don't want to be that pain in the butt vendor. We want to make things very easy for you, but we also need to be very organized in everything as well. So, we have forms that go out from the time that we get a lead in, we enter them into our client management system. They get questionnaires from the very beginning. So they're filling out information and giving us this information that we have. And it's stuff that over the years we've found that's important for us to know, even going into a first client meeting. So they fill out a questionnaire telling us kind of a little bit of who they are and a little bit about their wedding day. And then after they book with us, all that can be done online. We found, when we started, it was the days of paper contracts and mailing back and forth or sitting there as a client was filling out the contract. And we didn't like that. That was not something we enjoyed. And so now it's very, non-pressure. They can go home, they can read through the agreement, sign it online. And it's nice because the client management system we have, everything gets saved in there, everything gets pre-populated. So
it's a live form too. I mean, we have a questionnaire that we send out. They'll get that questionnaire when they book, but if their wedding is a year later, that's a live form for the next year. So they can go in and they can update that form as things change, as they think of things. Then they can constantly update that. We meet with the clients typically the week before the wedding, and we'll have that form in front of us. And we get updates. Whenever the client updates that form, we get an email saying this is what's been updated. So, we'll know, the ins and outs of the family dynamics. I mean, we know that the bride, has a 2-year-old child that has an attention span of 30 seconds. So whenever we go to that wedding, we have already developed a plan to make sure that we have that 2-year-old taken care of. We know, maybe the grandmother or the grandfather can't stand for more than 5 minutes, or can't be out in the sun, or is late, or something. We know everything that you've told us, and we have come up with either a plan or a course of action to make sure that doesn't interfere with the day, to make sure that we're able to get what the client wants, withstanding of all those.
And I think over the years, we've kind of learned what we need to ask. And, I always tell our clients too, family dynamics is huge on a wedding day. You don't often have all your family together. And so, we ask those questions. Are your parents married or divorced? Are they remarried? Have there been any deaths in the family that we need to know about? Who are your siblings? In this day and age, we have a lot of split families. It's very rare that we have, the bride and groom's parents are both still married and have one nuclear family. Most of the time you have a lot of split families. And so I think that's something too. We both come from split families. Both our parents are divorced and have been for years. Both our dads are remarried, both our moms are not. We kind of know how that is from a personal standpoint. And so for us too, it's important to know all that. And I think it makes things go so much smoother because we've asked the questions ahead of time. And it's not something that they have to sit on the phone and answer with us. It's that they can fill these forms out on their own time. I know, especially the family piece, it helps the family photos just go smooth for us. We don't have to think about that because I know all these answers. And I think that's too why I say like the beginning of the wedding day is one of my favorites, is because then I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I'm figuring out who's mom and who's dad and who's stepmom and who's stepdad, or, just kind of who's who. And so then it makes it go so much easier when we're going to do family formals. We always get, mom's wall and dad's wall and the bride's family side and the groom's family side. And really that's something I strive for, especially coming from a large family and a split family, is that to making sure we have all those different combinations of people. I did a wedding a few years ago, and both the bride and groom's parents are divorced. They're both remarried. So you have 4 sets of parents. You have half siblings and step siblings. And so, but I knew all this ahead of time, and family pictures went smooth. And I had all 4 sets of parents come up to me later on in the reception and say, I can't believe that you just did that. And you did it so smooth without there was no awkwardness. There was no pressure. There was no, you got every combination we could ever think of. And they said, this is our third, it was the 3rd wedding in the family. And they said, something's always missed, or it feels awkward, or it doesn't feel natural. And that's something, we try to make sure that every single wedding you want that to be just fun and smooth and natural, and not standing around for hours taking these formal portraits. And, so that's something that we really try to strive to make sure is done well.
And I know that too from even when we started working together. I mean, I think I've gotten a lot of my forms and stuff, from Ryan or help with, contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is something that you just can't teach experience, right? You can't teach, years of work. And I mean, even I know now, like going into this season, I feel more prepared than I was last season. And so I can only imagine, in another 5 years or 10 years, really refining that process and making it easy for the client. Because like you said, I mean, it really is kind of about their day. And I think that efficiency that you guys bring, I think is really appreciated. And I think that it's allows them for a lot more, personal time with, the couples and the more fun things, right? Because nobody likes to do family photos.
No. And that's what I always tell people. And especially like when we're talking timelines and stuff, and they think they need all this time for family photos. And I'm like, nope, 30 minutes. I can do the biggest families in 30 minutes as long as I have everybody there, because we're just going to, boom, 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 go right through it. And I think that's the other nice thing about us is we have that kind of down to a science between the two of us, whereas I'm getting everybody in place. Ryan's taking the photo and next. So as he's shooting, that section, I already know in my head who I'm pulling out and who I'm putting in for the next photo. Because we don't ever want to be those photographers that people talk about later of family photos took forever. We stood around. It was so unorganized. And it's like, nope, we start big, we work our way down. And, and that's something I think that over the years, we've really kind of been able to, we have it down to a science now.
Yeah. And I think, being clear and upfront and being very transparent with the client is very important as well. And it goes back to my business experience. I worked with one of the departments that I worked in. We dealt with, customer complaints, and I was able to take to heart why customers complain. And I actually learned, very early on in my career how to make sure that you treat the client well, that you communicate with them, that your processes are in place that enable them to to feel like you're communicating with them, to feel like you're being open, that there's nothing hidden, that stuff's not in the fine prints. And we've never told a client, oh well, it's buried in the fine prints. Everything is very transparent with us. Our processes, even going down to our agreements, everything is spelled out in our agreement, and it's very. It was written by an attorney, but fine-tuned by me to make sure that everything is very clear, that it's not in some cryptic law language, but it's very. What are the expectations? When you hire our studio, here's what you can expect from us. Here's what we'll give you, but in return, this is what we expect from you to have a successful relationship and to get successful pictures. And we've really never had any complaints on that front where a client has said, "Well, I didn't know it was going to be this way."
Yeah, I think that in terms of wedding planning across kind of any category, whether it's photography or photo booth or whatever, I mean, there's a lot of not fun parts about planning a wedding in terms of meetings and calls and paperwork and forms and contracts and stuff. And so I think having that process and getting people through really gets to the fun stuff, right? I mean, and you said, where you're kind of you have everything in place, and then finally it's the wedding day. I think is as exciting as the clients are for that to finally kind of come. I do think we are as well. I mean, when I was in news, it would be a lot of you'd learn an hour from now, what you have to do or whatever, and then even the idea of having something 6 months forward to look, 6 months away to look forward to was unique and exciting to me. But I think that you guys have really fine-tuned that to kind of get a lot of the clutter out of the way.
Yes.
Because it's kind of unavoidable. But I do think that it kind of leads to a more kind of seamless approach. I mean, don't you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody likes contracts and online forms, and and so it's something that we definitely have tried to fine-tune and make it so we can get through all that and then enjoy the rest of it. And we've taken things out in the years too that I'm like, this doesn't matter. I don't really need to know this, or it's something I can figure out on my own, or anything that we can kind of take out to make it so it's just what we need and not anything more. It makes it better for the client.
Well, we have our systems too that they talk to each other more now than they did in the past, and so you're not having to tell us the same information multiple times. So. I mean, if you, for example, you put your parents' name in one of the forms, well, now the system knows what your parents' name is. So you're not having to tell us multiple times, well, okay, this is my dad and this is what you need to know. I mean, everything's designed to be very, very easy on the client. So
one thing I like to talk to people about is in terms of, especially you guys that have gone to so many places and seen so many venues, what are bucket list kind of venues left, or things that you guys have left to do, whether it's abroad, but especially here kind of in the Pacific Northwest? I mean, if you guys could have an ideal, where would you like to go, or what would you like to see?
I just like traveling for weddings. I mean, Seattle, I mean, we've done Seattle. Seattle's great. Granted, I mean, there's some beautiful venues. I don't think I can say that there's one particular venue I wish I would shoot at, but I think it's the people that make the picture. I mean, we can put our couple in any setting. It's the couple is what makes the picture. So it's really hard to say that, oh, I want to shoot at this venue, or, oh, I wish we could go. I love sunset pictures. I love, doing technical lighting on sunset pictures. I love church weddings, but, I think it's hard for me to say I want to narrow it down to, okay, this particular venue.
Okay, I'll answer this question.
Yes.
Now you answer it, okay.
So outside of the Northwest, my bucket list wedding locations, I would love to do a wedding in New York City. I think it would be awesome. I would love to do a wedding There's a lot. I guess there's a lot of places I'd like to travel to. I think New York would be fun. I think, I've done a few destination weddings abroad, and I think it would be amazing to, do more weddings in Europe, and be able to travel to some of those destinations. I think here in the Northwest, I think, as we, over time, we shoot in a lot of the same places, which is great. I'd love to get over to the San Juans more. I think it's a fun destination here at home. It's very Pacific Northwest, but it's fun for everybody. So I'd love to be able to shoot more over there. I think that, you see new venues pop up every year. And so it's kind of, when I see the new venues, I want to shoot there. I want to see what they're like. So there's some new venues popping up too. And then we have a lot of our favorites too that we know we know we can get good stuff no matter what, and so, I think that we're lucky to live in the area that we do. When you look at Snohomish, even like Snohomish, when we first started, there were a few wedding venues, and now it's the place to get married. And how many there's tons of new wedding venues every year out there. So it's fun to see some of those grow. I love Lord Hill Farms and Hidden Meadows are two of, some of my favorites. I love shooting at Monte Cristo and Everett. It's one of my, go-tos. I think, we're lucky to live where we do because, we love the venues too, where you can get all different looks and feels just right in that one location. I think traveling from location to location can get hard on a wedding day. And so, when you have a location like Rose Hill and Mukilteo, where you have, the grass and the park kind of setting up at the venue, but then you go right down the hill to the lighthouse and the beach and the boardwalks and, where you can get everything just from right there. So, I think it's fun to shoot at new places. It's fun to go to, some of our old favorites too. So, I'd love to do some more destination weddings as well too. So.
And like Ryan said, it is ultimately about the people. I think it's funny. We did like Matthew and Alex's wedding over the summer, and I think we ended up just having to do, because of timing, some of their portraits like on the sidewalk outside, right?
Yep.
And like, you maybe like you wrote that on paper and you're like, well, that's probably not super exciting, but it actually was like really cute and really fun. And like they hopped on each other's back and did like a piggyback ride and stuff. So I do think that it's kind of like both sides of that coin where,
absolutely.
You can make the venue kind of work for you, or else, obviously like if you're on the beach with the sunset, that could be amazing. But sometimes you're on a park sidewalk.
Well, and that's, we joke too. Like we've done receptions at the Elk Lodge. Like I can make an Elk Lodge look good, right? Like it's funny as a photographer, the things that you see. And, when most people look at that and they're like, oh, that's no, thank you. And I tell our clients too, I'm like, I can make an alley look amazing, so it's all about how you see things too.
And you take a picture. A lot of times people will look at a picture and they'll look at the whole setting. They won't look at the components. We look at the components of the picture. So whereas somebody may see a backyard, I look out at a backyard and I see a green tree and I see some red flowers and I see some grass.
He's talking about my backyard.
Okay.
He totally is, yeah.
I have to have a visual reference. But I think what, so you relook at the smaller components of the picture, and I think that's what helps get, where you can take a picture that's maybe not as desirable and you make it more desirable because you're minimizing the components in the picture and you're basically focusing on one component versus the whole thing. So.
Well, and when I think of destination weddings too, I guess I should say a little bit more about that, because every time we've done a destination wedding, most of our clients have been from here. So we've traveled with them, we've got to know them. And so to me, it's fun because it's so much more than just the wedding day. When we travel with clients, we're there with them before, a couple days before the wedding, and we're there at the rehearsal dinner. And so it's fun because you get that whole experience with them as well, too. So like this summer, we have a wedding in Napa. And so we're going down and, the day before we're doing the meet and greet with all the friends and family, and we're going to a winery. And, so it's kind of fun because that's that whole experience. It's not just the wedding day. And so it's fun to experience that with people.
One story I meant to bring up earlier and I couldn't find a good time, but we were talking about, being accommodating, and that reminded me of this last summer, from Memorial Day weekend, where I got, a last minute inquiry on, I think it was like a Monday, or it might have been like the week before, but for, the Memorial Day Saturday. And I had messaged you guys because you're one of my go-tos, and you guys were actually on vacation in Europe. And 12-hour time difference or whatever it was. And I think we were like literally on Facebook Messenger for like, 2 or 3 days trying to like figure out, the details and stuff and scheduling. And I just think that's kind of a testament to you guys, right? And like your dedication. And I would have been heartbroken if I hadn't brought that story up.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
That was fun. Yeah. So we were over in Europe on vacation, and we were traveling around, and I got your Facebook message.
No, we were actually at the Dusseldorf train station going to Berlin. I remember we had, I think like 30 minutes we had just left. And
yeah. So we started messaging you and asking you about the clients, and then the client had emailed us, but yeah, there's a 10-hour time difference. And so it was kind of trying to juggle that and, answer questions and the emails and stuff of the clients. And we ended up actually talking to them too on the phone while we were over there and answering questions and trying to send agreements and everything so we could get it taken care of. And yeah, it's kind of fun when you have experiences like that,
Well, I think they probably thought we were badass because it's like, it was 12 noon there, which is 2 o'clock in the morning, and the clients don't know we're in Europe. So they're thinking, oh, wow, they're answering their email at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Really
yeah.
They're really dedicated, but it's really 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
You guys are at like happy hour.
Really, yeah.
This is great.
Really, we were sitting having a glass of wine, but, we were still answering emails. That's the joy of technology, right?
Just never know where we'll be. So.
Yeah. So it was fun to book a wedding while we're on vacation. And, we're like, okay, now when we get back, we have this wedding. And, so.
I mean, and our systems are such. I mean, we were able to do that. And all the information's available to send the clients. So it's not, we didn't have to use the excuse, we're out of the office. We'll be back in a week.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever sent an out of office email memo. I hear those still happen. Never happened with us. So, we try to be there, and it's a good thing we are, because then we got to book another wedding and, have more experiences, right? So.
Well, perfect. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on today. If people want to know more about you guys or are interested in your services, what should they do?
I said they can visit our website. Our website's eventsbyhr.com. They can also send us an email, info@eventsbyhr.com. They can also call us at 425-610-9223.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.